Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, 320 Sim Pilot. I'm a real-world airline pilot, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about the IniBuilds A350, which is launching very soon for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about, is it worth it in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020? When you purchase the A350, you'll be able to have a version for both simulators included, so you can run it in either Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 or Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Not everyone is using Flight Simulator 2024, and there are lots of reasons for that. Not everyone has it, not everyone's bought it yet, and some people are struggling to run it. So there's lots of reasons that you might want to use Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 instead. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at what features do and don't work in the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 version, and if it's still worth your time. Spoiler alert, just to start at the beginning of this video, yes, it's still fantastic. The features that are missing are minor, unless you are particularly fond of your interior cabins, but there's lots of features to talk about that really make this airplane pretty unique, and we'll see how those work in Flight Simulator 2020 as well. I do have a video already on the channel in 2024, in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, so that's a complete video on the channel where I take you through a full flight and we see all these features, so do please check that out if you're interested in that. We're going to take this Japan Airlines A350-900 this time, so slightly different. My other video was in the 1000s, and we're going to take it for a bit of a spin and have a look at these features. I currently fly the Boeing 787, so of course, as usual, I'll be peppering in a few comparisons with the wonderful 787 with this fantastic A350, and this is another chance for you to enjoy a little preview of this upcoming airliner for Microsoft Flight Simulator, although it may well have released by the time you see this video. Let's get started. Now, as you just saw there, just after the engine start, do rewind the video if you'd like to see it again, but the oil overflow did come out the bottom of the engine just after it started up. It hasn't run for as long, but that could be due to the atmospheric conditions, but I did see the little oil venting which we saw during the startup in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, so that's a good sign to see that some of those external dynamic effects are appearing in this sim as well. Like I say, it ran a little bit shorter there, but it did vent out at the bottom, which is a common feature on these big modern engines. I don't know why, but it's a feature you see them do quite a lot. Awesome. Good start. Having a look at the sim menu, and the only difference here in 2020 compared to 2024 is that you only have your two aeroplanes, the A350-900 and the A350-1000. That's what you're expecting. And then if you select one, you can go to liveries and choose which livery you fancy, and that's about it. You can't choose if you want the cabin or not, because it's not included in the 2020 version. And of course, that's the same for the 350-1000. You just choose one with your livery. So we're going to take a Japan Airlines livery today. So we're sat here on the runway, and the first thing we need to talk about that I mentioned is something that is missing, and that is the cabin. It's not available in either option, as I showed you in the load-in screen. When you choose your variant, if you walk into the cabin, you do get a front galley, so it doesn't feel completely ridiculous, but as you stroll into the back, you're going to soon find this is what you're facing. Yeah, good for performance, and it has some of the cabin around the wing, so some of your views will be able to have, be able to look out the window if you set up your cameras appropriately. So I think that's a nice detail, and frankly, for me, this is absolutely acceptable. I don't have a big thing for cabins in flight simulators. I know a lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with that, but for me, I'm not too fussed. As you go into things like this, you'll see that there's no crew rest area, and unfortunately our flushing toilet is also missing. So yeah, it's very much stripped down, but like I say, it does have a galley, it does have window seats, so there are options there. The flight deck, I'm pleased to report, is not missing anything at all as far as I can tell. Look at this, all the details that we were so excited about work. You've even got your little seat control buttons animated. Yeah, really nice. It's just hard to complain about this. I've never seen that before. It has a slidey top half. Clever stuff as ever with Airbus. Even the oxygen mask panel's open. So yeah, this is good stuff, and the tray table pops out. So you're not missing out in the flight deck, where it really counts in terms of the modelling of the interior. So that's good news. If you look down at the screen in the light, look at that. You can still see the fingerprints, and you've still got that sort of LCD effect, so the screens look absolutely fantastic even in 2020. I mean, yeah, it looks absolutely brilliant. And there's a lot of things to like about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 in terms of stability and features that are available. Now I'm going to take you into the OIS, the EFB over here. This is very similar. You'll see that you still have panel states available, so you can set it on APU ready for takeoff and so on. If we go into options, the aircraft options are all very similar, but there's something to note, which is the aircraft weathering. As you can see, this is a lovely brand new A350 in absolutely immaculate condition. Now, in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, there is a weathering effect we saw that over time will add grime around the joints. It puts on the jetway marks and even flakes the paint on the nose. that is still available here. So if I slide this weathering tab all the way up, it will still be there. There you go. See the grime around the windows. We've got the aluminium panel line starting to show, the rivet heads losing their paint. And then as you move back, the composite areas are a bit cleaner because it's built with different materials, but you've still got the streaks down from the windows. So that's really great. Look at that, even the cargo door. But in Flight Simulator 2020, it's not dynamic. It won't do that over time. You just set the amount of weathering you fancy. And I don't think that's a bad thing. How many of us are going to use one specific livery? Because it's tied to delivery, I believe, in 2024. But it's a cool feature in 2024. It is missing here in 2020. You are just stuck with the setting you want it to be. Not a deal breaker, but there you go. The same thing is true if we move down to equipment, and you can see these are all options that when I did my Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 video of the 350, these were all grayed out. It was actually tied to delivery. However, in this case, it's not. In 2020, it's not tied to delivery. You have to choose it. So we can choose to have SATCOM, SCS outlets, LED or high HID. I don't actually know the difference. Brake fans on or off, and you can see here brake fans goes missing there. We can put them on there. Let's have a look at the lights. Let's show you that because I didn't show you the two different lights in 2020. Okay, so here we have the LED lights. You can see that sort of pixelated style. And then if we go to HID, I don't actually know which is the more modern, to be honest. You got these sort of little ones, much smaller. So there you go. You have that option. Same with the brake fans, taxi camera lights, whether you want the ADF, SATCOM. We've got SATCOM on the top now. If I zoom up above the airplane, there you go, the big SATCOM antenna at the back there. And if I turn that off, it's missing. Yeah, so go do it yourself. Again, not a big problem, but worth noting. Something else that won't surprise you is that we don't have Lido charts. If I go to the terminal charts in here, I need to have my Navigraph subscription link. So if I search for the airport, I have already tied in my Navigraph, which I did through FlightOps menu options, third party, and I put in my Navigraph. I need to put my SimBrief data in as well. But yeah, the charts do not include the Lido charts. So that is something you might want to consider, that you'll need to have Navigraph if you want to see them in here. Speaking of third-party options, let's put in my SimBrief ID. And now we can go to the menu, load sheet, SimBrief import. We're going to do a flight all the way to London today. So it's going to be quite a way. Zero fuel weight of 173 tons, but we're taking 90 tons of fuel. Similar figures to the 787, to be honest, but a little bit higher on the fuel load. So we'll set the zero fuel weight, set the fuel just as we did. That gives us our CGs, fuel loading complete. We should have our 89.9. So as you can see, these features are all working nicely, even with the engines running here. We have our OFP, which hopefully will load in straight away. There it is, Tokyo to Heathrow. So yeah, that SimBrief integration working really nicely. And in, yeah, now I just need to set up the FMS briefly, which is going to work exactly the same as it does in 2024. So do please watch my 2024 video if you'd like to see a bit more detail on how to start up the A350 and so on in my full A350 preview video. But we're going to go to our Init tab. I can't do a company request because the engines are running, so yeah, we'll just have to load it in. Something that's good to see is that I can simply type in by pressing the left control and then the numbers on the keyboard. So the whole, if I press control here, you'll see it. Let me select something like the alternate. If I click on it and press control, keyboard input active. So that still works, which is great. So that's a great feature from the 2024 one that also works here. So there we go, we've got a bit of a route started in there. IRSs are in nav mode. So now we can go to departure. We're departing from RJTT and we're going to go from 34 right. And we'll depart using a Beckler 3 Alpha. Temporary flight plan, insert, that would do. I'm just to show you a departure at some point. And as you can see, everything else up here working nicely as you would expect it to. You also note you do get the VSD, the vertical situation display. This is a great feature and we don't see it on many airplanes. It's often missing. Really, really handy. This shows you a side-on view of your vertical profile, your climb, and it will have terrain beneath you if you need it. It shows you the constraints, so you can see there that magenta triangle. We're going to be above that constraint, things like that. Really, really handy. So we'll quickly do the performance. I've set up by synchronizing from the FMS to the runway. I've typed in the weather, 263.2 tons, so a bit more of a heavy takeoff, and we'll see if it can let us do a config 1+F takeoff with the air conditioning on. Looks like it can, even with a flex D rate, so that's great. And we can send that to the FMS. Clear that info down there. Done our flight plan, or at least the first part of it. back to init, done the departure, nav aids, fuel and load time. We'll just finalise this. So we have a, better get back to the load sheet, 0 fuel weight of 173.4. Type it in here, 173. Okay, don't press the point. 4, otherwise it causes a bit of an issue. And we have a max 0 fuel of 30.21. Let's check it works down here, 30.21, enter. Great, and we have passenger number 304. 304. Great, so that's now loaded up. And then we can go finally to takeoff perf. We've checked those speeds of 150, 152, 158, flap 1, flex 42. 150, 152, 158, flap 1, flex of 42. And that's done. That's performance done. We've done the SID routing. Anyway, so this is not a full video. I have that on the channel already. I was going to show you the trim. You can see that it's wrong. So all we need to do, disarm the ground spoilers, rearm, and it runs the trim to be set for takeoff. How easy is that? Fantastic. Let's put the flight directors on. Let's climb up to 10,000 feet initially. Yeah, I think we're going to get going and see some of the other features. Just 2 more things to show you whilst we're on the ground. Features that are available in 2020 is the ANF. Now the ANF feature is the airport navigation function, and it's loading in now. You can see by zooming in. I have Navigraph information so it can pull up the full runway because I've synced my Navigraph account. Now the difference is that if you're running on Xbox, you do not get this feature if you're buying from the Xbox marketplace. However, you do get it in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and through either the IniBuilds store or the Microsoft Flight Simulator marketplace. It's just on Xbox. You don't get this ANF, which is where you get to see these runways. And just to check it still works, yeah, I have a cursor. If I click on it, I can add across. Great, and I can add a flag. And we'll see later on that we can also use this for brake to vacate feature, which is available on all platforms, including 2020 on the Xbox and the Xbox Marketplace. But of course, because you won't have the Navigraph data, you can't use the brake to vacate by clicking on the intersection you want to vacate at. You actually have to type in the distance. We'll see that shortly. The exterior, by the way, still looks absolutely fantastic all round. We've seen already those weathering effects, which I've sort of left on, and that can just give you an idea of the detail. Look at that, all the rivet heads with the paint flaking off, the different textures, the streaks of dirt, the jet bridge attachment points. And if we go under the wing, I'm hoping that will show us the same. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So there's, from my eye, nothing missing in this visual model in Flight Simulator 2020. There may be some updates to the textures, but I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and you're not going to be disappointed if you're running it in Flight Simulator 2020 in terms of visuals. By the way, let's have a look at these different winglets. So that's one version. If I go back to options, because I've not played around with these much, so might as well while we're here. Menu, options, and then we'll go to equipment, and this is going to be external long sharklets. Let's have a look at those. Oh, there we go, much nicer. So that's the right one to have on this livery, clearly, as it's painted lovely in red. That's cool. Now I'm just going to set it to the rain to show you some exterior effects to see if they work in the humidity. By the way, the terminal charts aren't showing up yet. I think I need to restart the simulator, given that I've just loaded in Navigraph, as you saw me do in this flight. So I'll restart the sim before the end of the video so you can see that. But let's have a look outside, and let's see if I can get some humidity going. You can see the lighting working really nicely, by the way, volumetric lighting. Look at the nose lights as well. So yeah, that's all working well. And what we'll do is actually, we will spool up the engines. Oh, not that much. You can have that intake. There's the clouding, condensation. I don't think we get the same spray effects behind because 2020 doesn't have that much of that going on. It's starting to move. Let's just spool down, see if I can get the funnel from the floor. I'm not sure if that's going to appear. There it is. It is. So that works as well. That's good to see. So those, yeah, those exterior humidity effects are present. Excellent. That is good news because I really like those. Right, let's get this thing in the air. So we've set our trim, we've got our flaps, we've got our fuel. We're going to release that parking brake. And let's give it a go. Let's see if it feels any different to take off. So stabilize the engines, bit of half side stick forwards. and then 2 clicks. And flex 42, SRS runway, auto thrust is armed, and blue. Great sounds, as you'd hope. So I'd be curious to see how the rudder feels. Typically grippy for the first part of the takeoff roll. 100 knots, stick to neutral. This is a much more long haul takeoff. Look at this. And yeah, it feels pretty nice now. Not too grippy. Rudder has effect, but not too much. And rotate. Still not as long of a takeoff roll as the 787 manages. And let's hear that gear. It sounds as loud on this aeroplane. Positive climb. Gear up. And there's nav. What a racket. Okay, around the turn. Thrust climb, open climb, auto thrust, or thrust declimb I should say. Round we go. Gorgeous. Let's engage the autopilot. And you can see here the VSD working nicely. Flight's departing. Excellent. Really nice. Now this is not a full flight, like I say, I'm just setting up the arrival, and you can see here that as I press enter, the cursor automatically jumps to the correct next box, which is really great to see. So you can just press enter and it goes to where you need it, which is really, really good. So that feature is working here as well. So let's level ourselves off at 6,000 feet, speed out star, and we'll bring ourselves back in for the ILS, and we're going to set up, before we do that, the brake to vacate function. So I'm just going to go to our flight plan for a moment, just to prove it works, because we haven't seen it yet in the 350. I'm going to pick point Kaiji, and I'm going to put in a hold 010 of 1 minute, temporary flight plan, insert. And there you go, you can see the over-wing vapor effects as well are present and correct in Flight Simulator 2020, so that's great to see. So there you gear up. Look at that, that's an awesome effect. I absolutely love that. Not something we see very often. Okay, so I've reduced the fuel down to something more sensible for a landing. We've got 20 tons of fuel, we're at 193 tons. We're just at the hold now as we expected, and everything is ready to go for the approach except for the braking to vacate. Now, of course, you can do your landing perf, and we can sync with the FMS, sync the weather. We'll do a flat fall, manual landing, and yeah, let's see what it computes. But crucially, and more excitingly than this, which shows that we clearly fit on a massive great runway, is if I go to nav and zoom in, and it will load up the airport map. And because we are not using the Xbox version, we can actually do the brake to vacate completely correctly. However, I'll show you that you can, of course, do that manually as well if you need to. So just take a second to load the first time, which we know already. Just let the airplane do a 180, and then we'll fly back over and join that approach. So maybe we'll go to plan. There we go, and zoom in. Plan's a better page to be on. So dragging around, you can see the charts are all here, looking excellent, and we should have the green arrow on 3-4 right, although we would have that because, of course, that's where we took off from. Let's zoom out one more level. So there you go. You can see the dry is written on here, and then further along the runway will be the wet. So we're actually taking up quite a lot of space. I think that is to do with the fact that it's only 3,300 meter runway. It's not the longest runway for landing in the world, and I'm not sure that could be because it might not have got the weight right, although it does have the correct approach speed in there of 140 knots, because of course I did change the weight dramatically. But either way, let's put in Charlie 11, and then you can just simply say set to vacate at this exit, which is Charlie 11, 2,100 meters. So actually, it's quite an inset threshold, and there's our green arrow, and that will work just fine. And then all I have to do is arm the auto brake, and BTV appears over here. Now you do have the other option, which is if you do not have the charts, so you don't have this map and you can't select that, you can simply press that little arrow, go to landing, and then BTV exit at, in this case it's 2,139 meters from the threshold, and you could type it in yourself if we hadn't already chosen our exit on here, Charlie 11. So I can unset that.
Auto brake off.
Oh, that's cool. It actually shouts it out. And then we could type in our distance to go. There we go, and then that gives us the same sort of thing, and then we can press auto brake and we get BTV because we've given it the distance we want. So pretty clever stuff, I think. But let's reset Charlie 11
brake off.
And then rearm the auto brake, and there it is, BTV Charlie 11 exit. Great. So here we are then looking out at the gorgeous wing of the A350, and you can see that it does have the flap shake, which is really important, a great feature of the AnyBuilds A350. So that is present, it gives that nice realistic effect to the wing, and it looks absolutely gorgeous as well. One reason you might actually choose to use Flight Simulator 2020 is that the camera views do work. So we're on the view without cabin, but if I move around you can see here that we do actually have different views available with the cabin around as well. So the surround is there. It's not complete, but it is a bit of a nice way to have a bit of a wing view if you like having the cabin visible on your wing view. So that is quite a nice feature, and again that system works really well in Flight Simulator 2020. It's a bit buggy in 2024. That's not AnyBuild's fault. That is simply down to the Flight Simulator 2024's camera system being a little bit, I find it temperamental at the moment. Right, we'll get rid of the speed brakes at the moment to make sure that they're all stowed. We're now joining that ILS just about. We might need to drop down to 2,000 feet to do this. This is a very low platform altitude into this airport. So there we go, BS. Let's go for 1,000 down. And let's lower the gear. Go to flaps 3. On the ground spoilers. You can hear that hydraulic pump running, and we'll actually have to lower that to 1,500 feet, I think, here to make this work. And we'll go to 1,500 feet per minute for now. Bit of a glide slope from above here. There's a localizer, so I'm going to wind that altitude up out of the way. There's glide slope star, 2,000 feet in for now, and we're coming out onto 3-4 rights. Let's go to flaps full, and the last thing we're going to see is that brake to vacate. By the way, I've been trying to get the terminal charts to work. I have not been able to get them to work. My understanding is they will through Navigraph work here in the flight sim, in the aircraft's EFB. I haven't had much luck with that today. This is a preview build. There could be some bugs, so I believe that is a feature that will be there in the release version. It could be something to do with my setup. So yeah, I will put a comment down below if that is not going to be the case, if I find out that it won't work, but I think it will. And of course, even if it doesn't, you have the Navigraph Charts app here that you can use in 2020, so easy to get around. But like I say, I'm confident that's supposed to be there. It's just my sim not playing ball today, and like I say, it could be because this is a preview build. Finally, one last feature to talk about is the different approach types. We're doing an ILS here, but all of the approach types that are available in 2024 will work on 2020, and that's true whether it's from the IniBuilds store, Marketplace, or Xbox. So you get the SLS or GLS, you have the ILS and the FLS, which is a fancy way of doing non-precision approaches, and you have the RMP AR. So all the approach types are available to you, whichever version of the 350 you get. So that's great news as well. Right, here we are on final approach then. We're in speed, we've got brake to vacate arms, glide slope, localizer, land, 3 IP 1+2. And we do of course have the checklist menu here, which does also work, so we could run the landing checklist, camera crew advice, auto thrusters is in speed, auto brake is BTV, runway condition is set, landing checklist is complete, so that works nicely. Okay, let's give it a go then. We're going to have an attempt at landing the A350-900, our first try with this one. Flat full landing, disconnect the autopilots, got to disconnect both, as I've engaged both, there we go. Not the official way to do it, but the way I have my binding set up at the moment. Again, to handle, this aeroplane feels just as lovely as the 2024 version that I have flown around in. Yeah, it feels great. It's a a reasonably big and heavy aeroplane, and it does feel like that. That's full aileron there. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to bank this much at this stage in the flight, but just to show you how it's pretty weighty. It feels a little weightier to me in 2020 than 2024 perhaps, but that could be because it's a 900. But yeah, overall very nice indeed. Right, now this runway is a bit of a bug in 2020, so I'm just going to fly a stable approach from here down to the runway hopefully.
Right slope.
It's complaining about the glide slope, but we are in the right place.
50, 40,
Right slope.
30,
Idle.
10.
And there's touchdown. Get the reversers out. There we go. And look at that. The ANF map automatically comes up and brakes activated. Now the glide slope warning is a glitch to do with Flight Simulator. For some reason it has a problem with 3-4 right in Tokyo Haneda. So that is not the 350's fault. It's great to feel that the landing felt very consistent as well with the one in 2024. It's sensitive to the pitch and it's easy to overflare, which is, I believe, from IniBuilds video is also true from what their 350 type ready captain said. Right, we'll go to forward idle. We've made it down to taxi speed, and here's our vacating point, Charlie 11, just like that. So we'll just bring it to a stop here. So that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully it's been of use for you, especially if you're considering the IniBuilds A350 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Overall, to me, it is still an excellent experience and misses so few of the features from 2024 that I would have no hesitation in recommending it. If you were interested in buying it, but you were worried it not being worth it on 2020, then do not worry. It still flies great, it looks great, it has the effects, and it has the systems sitting in the machine itself, and it has the visual fidelity as well. The only things missing, like the full cabin, not something that I'm too worried about. And as I showed you those charts, where you have the Lido charts in Flight Simulator 2024's version that are sort of integrated and work straight away, I couldn't get the Navigraph charts to work today. I'm confident they are supposed to. Like I say, this is filmed using a preview build, so I think it's something to do with my setup or maybe my Navigraph subscription, so I need to look into that. And I'll leave a pinned comment if those charts are not going to be available, but I'm confident they are. It is a feature that IniBuilds have said will be there. So overall, it's a fantastic aircraft, and it is really a top-tier aircraft from Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and it's entirely your choice if you want to run it in 2020 or 2024, just depending if you really want some of those features in 2024, such as the slightly upgraded taxi handling, the slightly different, well, the full cabin interior, things like that. That's it then for today's video. Do please join us for more in the future. There'll be plenty of videos, guides, live streams coming. So do please subscribe if you'd like to see those. We'll see you again in a future video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.